Hi everyone. We're just going to give a couple of minutes for any late attendees, so please hold on and the webinar will start shortly. Hopefully that should give everyone enough time to join. So hi again everyone, and welcome to our webinar on AI test automation for S4HANA. Next slide please. I'll start with a quick introduction. My name's Faz Ahmed and I'm a Business Development Manager here at Prolifics Testing. Now I've been with Prolifics for 7 years now, but I've been in testing services for over 20 years. As part of my role, I'm the go-to-market owner for SAP and S4HANA, which involves looking at how we can deliver innovation and improvements to our SAP customers. I'm joined today by Bernard, who's a QA architect from our partner Tricentis. And before we begin, a bit of general housekeeping. We've muted this webinar, but please feel free to enter any questions in the chat box, and we'll try and answer them at the end of the session. Next slide, please. In terms of agenda, I'm going to start with an introduction to Prolifics. I'll walk you through our SAP experience and talk through a case study with Intuitive Surgical and how we implemented AI-based test automation for their S4HANA migration. I'll hand over to Bernard, who will talk through Tricentis continuous testing platform for S4HANA and show you how easy it is to automate a simple S4HANA scenario. Finally, we'll set some time aside at the end for questions. Next slide, please. So for those of you who haven't come across Prolifics before, we're a global digital transformation specialist helping organizations on their journey to the cloud. Once there, we help them migrate to cloud-based platforms with downstream systems through middleware platforms and APIs. And we've also got a dedicated data and analytics practice, which includes data scientists to help our clients leverage the latest in AI-enabled analytics. And finally, we have our quality engineering practice, which I am part of. If you were to ask me what makes Prolifics different to all of the other digital transformation companies out there, I'd have to say innovation, and not for its own sake, but to help our clients to deliver faster, smarter, and at less cost. Next slide, please. So at Prolifics, we consider ourselves to be SAP experts. We've got 23 years experience in new implementations, support packs, and upgrade testing for SAP. And this is delivered through our 300 plus SAP test engineers with functional technical knowledge and through our 50 plus S4HANA technical resources. The slide you can see shows some of our SAP testing clients, which a lot of are based in the UK and the US as well. We've undertaken a mixture of manual testing, test automation, and performance testing across ECC, Fiori, and S4HANA. And as McKesson's outsourced partner, we were part of one of the first S4HANA migrations globally. And we've undertaken a number of these subsequently. Our experience goes across integrated systems too, such as Salesforce, Workday, ServiceNow, and some of the integration platforms like MuleSoft and IBM as well. Next slide, please. Now, I want to talk you through one of our recent client case studies. Intuitive Surgical were embarking on an S4HANA migration and recognized it wouldn't be a straightforward upgrade, but a long and complex transformation. They needed to balance ongoing BAU activities with major change activities involved with S4HANA. So they engaged us here at Prolifics to look at how they could automate as much of the testing and validation process to deliver their transformation on time and on budget. We undertook a feasibility study and concluded that Tricentis' continuous testing platform for S4HANA would provide the best fit solution, as it included Tosca for AI automation, Live Compare for AI change impact analysis, and Neoload for code-free performance testing. Next slide, please. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Tosca, it's a code-free test automation tool designed to record all the actions an end user would make to test an application, and then giving them the ability to execute it as often as they like through the simple press of an execution button. Old test automation tools required complex coded scripts and thousands of lines of code to do this. But with Tosca, a user can simply scan each screen, capture all the elements such as input fields and drop-down boxes, and enter the required data, making test automation simple and easy to do. Tricentis uses AI in three different ways. Firstly, with Vision AI, which sees objects on the screen like the human eye. This increases the number of tests that can be automated. Next, self-healing AI, which automatically updates scripts when changes are made to the application, which reduces the effort of doing this manually. And finally, risk AI, which uses smart algorithms to identify those areas of greatest risk, and therefore targeting test effort more intelligently. And recently, Tricentis has announced that it will be launching its own version of Copilot for Tosca. This will integrate Tosca with Azure OpenAI to enable users to use natural language to auto-generate TQL code to identify failures in scripts. Next slide, please. By leveraging Tosca, Intuitive Surgical team were able to test all of their migrated modules within budget and on time. It provided a way to automate S4HANA, which could be used by our experienced automation engineers, as well as less experienced internal team members. Tosca was able to deliver significant benefits for S4HANA at Intuitive Surgical. It delivered code-free automation, which meant test automation was quick and simple to do. It used Vision AI, which enabled test automation of end-to-end scenarios, which were previously not possible through automating integrated applications. And also self-healing has drastically reduced the time taken to update scripts. And finally, Tosca's DEX feature has enabled text execution to be drastically reduced, and as they can be executed in parallel. Next slide, please. Now, I'm going to hand over to Bernard from Tricentis, who will walk you through the Tricentis continuous testing platform and take you through a short demo. Over to you, Bernard.
Thank you, Faz. And I should now be seeing this slide. So first of all, thank you very much for everybody to join. And as you have already heard from Faz, there are a number of products that build up portfolio to help you with continuous quality assurance in S4HANA projects. And we're going to focus just on a couple of aspects here. So, and obviously we'll look at specifics around AI, which is a subject everybody is going to talk about. So we're going to have two specific points, which I will elaborate a bit. So first of all, we're going to start with some slides, and then later on I will also show you the product Tosca in action. So when you embarking on a journey from either ECC to S4, or you're consolidating your efforts, one of the initial thoughts is, okay, what am I going to go for, right? Am I going to go for a conversion, partial migration, new implementation? And with this question, our product Life Compare can help you to build your path going forward. So initially, you can basically perform a analysis between your current ECC system and the vanilla S4 to kind of understand um, the amount of work that would be coming your way, potential issues as well, in terms of what would work, wouldn't work, which interfaces wouldn't work, and that entire encompasses your whole system. So your custom code, custom configurations you've done, as well as everything that comes as standard. And with the information that comes out in various levels, down to the point where you can actually use that to build basically a project plan in terms of what work you would need to do, and that initially gives you that visibility. And visibility is always good for mitigating risk. Now, once you are starting either implementing your changes on S4 and or continuing to obviously build on your ECC, keeping that maintained. We have here a simplified blueprint on how a good quality assurance process could work using our solution set. So starting from left to right, so you have a change that can be a code change, configuration change, or a security change, and you want to pack that together into a release and move this into production. And how do our solutions support this? So the first important part is the change impact analysis. And Faz already alluded to that. There's some AI behind that. And what that does, I'm going to illustrate now based on an abstracted real life user example. And just to set the context, so we have an application change, a release that you've built, an upgrade, a service pack, a change. So you want to put this onto your system and you want to make sure it all works and it hasn't broken anything. So the choices are, you can test everything. And this example shows there's roughly over 3,000 objects, so transactions, programs, interfaces used on the system, of which some are custom and some are standard. Now, that's generally testing everything is not an option because it's far too much work to undertake, especially if you're releasing frequent changes. Now, the second best option is to test most things. So only test objects that are impacted by change. Now, that already reduces the scope for your testing. Now, what Live Compare does with its risk AI is basically understanding what's impacted as well as optimizing that to a minimum set of transactions, programs, and interfaces that you need to test to cover all the changes and therefore to cover your risk. And that can significantly decrease the amount of testing you need to do to ensure that changes don't break your system. Now, once you have basically done this, so you've identified all the things that you need to test, so you come to the testing part. Obviously, testing is always a combination of some manual testing and ideally some test automation. So in the first instance, Live Compare still can help you there. So you can take the information that comes out of your change impact analysis and integrate that with your test management system or test automation product, for example, Tosca. And Live Compare can look into your repository and identify those tests intelligently that cover those changes. And it will also identify where you still need to create some tests to cover that risk. We call that hits and gaps. And with that information, you can then, when you've integrated it with Tosca, or in SAP language, it's also called Enterprise Continuous Testing. When you've integrated with Tosca or ECT, the tests hits that were identified will ultimately be put into an execution list, and you can just push a button and run those. For the other ones, you obviously need to create your tests, and they can be manual or automated. Now, Tosca, as a test automation solution, like Fast said, already said, has some AI technology that helps you to automate any user interface. We'll have a brief look at that. It is no code, so you don't need a programming language to create test automation, and there's no switch to flick that into from a non-coded view to coded view. And we cover over 160 different technologies and enterprise packaged applications, so you can test your system from uh, start to finish on SAP as well as outside of SAP. Functional testing is one part. When it then comes to modern uh, enterprises, functional testing is one part. But what is also very important is the data that flows through your organization. This is depicted here horizontally from left to right, where data is being consumed by a transactional system, for example, SAP, in the form of files, CSV, JSON that come from suppliers or customers. That gets put into your transactional system. It then flows into one or more data warehouses, data lakes, data lake houses, and then eventually, after a lot of transformation, consolidation, aggregations being displayed in the form of predefined dashboards or as self-service. So with an extension to the functionality that Tosca provides, and we call that product then Tricentis Data Integrity, you can test at large volume data flows within your organization from start to finish, from ingestion to consumption. In addition to that, and Fas also mentioned this before, we've got a performance testing solution to highlighting just two aspects. The first one, it's also a no-code performance testing solution. So again, you don't need to know or write any programs to have your performance test created, but it also allows you to export functional test cases you created with Tosca into the solution to start off with, processes that you want to test that already, are working well. Now, once you have tested manually or automated, you would think, okay, I'm quite happy. I fulfilled my test plan. To kind of assure, though, that your tests were effective, i.e., hit the right kind of notes, as in terms of covering all those changes that were previously identified by the change impact analysis, we have in Live Compare a function called test audit that basically makes sure that these changing objects were actually hit by your tests. Gives you additional assurance before you prepare to go into production. In addition to that, to make sure you're not faltering on the last hurdle when you're moving from pre-production to production, for example, we have the release assurance. Now, release assurance, in a nutshell, basically makes sure that the dependencies that your release package has on things that are already on the system, so not part of the release, are the same in your pre-production where you've tested everything as they are in production. So you don't fall over by overtakers, for example, that are then missing objects in production because they weren't released earlier. Now that is, in short, a blueprint on how our solutions can help you to deliver change from start to finish into your S4 environment with minimum risk. Before I now go into a short demo of our automation solution, just wanted to ask Fas if there are any questions that have been asked so far.
And Bernard, yeah, there's a few. First
Okay.
one, can Live Compare be used for manual testing?
Yes, absolutely. So our products and solutions are independent on each other. Obviously, they provide enhanced values in their combination, but live compare can be used completely independently of any automation. In fact, it's highly beneficial to identify tests for manual testing as well.
Brilliant. Excellent. Another question. This is actually more generic. What are the challenges with SAP test automation?
What are the challenges with SAP test automation? So I think initially the biggest challenge is really understanding what you should be testing, right? Based on changes you're putting onto the system, obviously you will understand some aspects that you want to test because you're putting changes onto the system for a purpose. Yeah, to support a certain business process or transaction. What is always the open question is, what else do I need to do from a regression perspective?
Mm.
And that's one of the biggest challenges, and that can quite easily derail the scope for your testing. You know, you probably have experienced this. You're getting into a test cycle that's 4 weeks long, 1,000 tests to run. You have done 800. Now you found a critical issue. You're deploying a change. The question is then, do I need to start again? Can I continue? Or do I need to retest some of what I've already done and then continue? And Live Compare can help you with that. And then the other part is because changes are coming in frequently. Yeah. So with S4, for example, every quarter you will have an upgrade. Now, you still need to cater for that. And one way of actually freeing up your business resources with doing that is to introduce test automation. So you can do testing much more often and in a wider coverage, also relieving some of your business users from that.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Bernard. And final one, is performance testing important as S4 HANA is in the cloud?
Yes, so it still is important because um, when you're making changes to a system, you can make changes in a way that they perform well, or you can make them in a way that they become inefficient. And that's totally independent of the underlying infrastructure provided by the cloud. So it's still important that you test the performance of the changes you're making. Um, Also, when you're then changing interfaces, don't forget the interfaces are still a lot of them going to be on your side. So you still need to make sure that the changes you made on those are, um, yeah, still performant. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We just had a quick question coming right now. How is this different from WorkSoft, Selenium, or LeapWork?
Okay. So when we get into the actual demonstration, I will
Uh-huh.
show you how it works, and then you can maybe build your own picture on how that differentiates to those technologies and products.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's all the questions for now, Bernard. But please
Okay.
do, yeah, type into the chat box any questions you have, and we've got some time at the end as well.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, I'm gonna just do a small demo, and that hopefully illustrates how our technology differentiates from Worksoft, Selenium, or LeapWork. This is it's going to be a short demo, so it's not going to be too comprehensive, just covering a couple of key concepts. So the first one is our no-code approach. And what you can see here is a simple test case, a sample test case that logs into SAP. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to exit this one. So we start basically on a nice part. So we have the SAP login. So there's a number of steps in there. So you can see each of these semicircle icons is basically a test step. And if I expand this a bit more, within a test step, you have multiple attributes. And generally, when you're doing UI testing, those attributes refer to objects on the screens, labels, fields, tables, whatever you see there. When you're doing API testing, it will refer to the content of your request responses. When you do documents, structured in the document. Um, You can do everything you can do with coded test automation in terms of interacting with the element, verifying values and saving values from the screen. So we're just briefly going to run that. And you can see here, um, it's practically plain English. There's no switch in terms of getting to a coded behind the scenes part. So it's just going to quickly run that. And for Tosca, we have um, the concept called a scratchbook, which basically means I can execute those tests locally on my machine without the test results being submitted and committed into my test repository. That's very useful when you want to develop tests, which I'm going to show here. Obviously, when you execute them as part of an execution list, those test results will be put into the system and stored. So you can see now we're going to through a process of creating a sales order, putting some data in. We're pushing a couple of buttons, and momentarily will be sales order created. We're going to enter some details around sold to party, shipped to party, a reference, and the customer reference date. Um, and now we're going to enter some material into that, and then click save. Hopefully, we'll add some material into that, unless I've messed about with the keys too much, then it will go. So you can see also it obviously finds the spaces, what it needs to do on the page, moves things around so it can find them. It's now going to click on the save button, and we're going to change the document date, and we'll go from there. Okay, sure. What it does. So yeah, you can see the document date. I think we're back now. It has increased that to the 26th from the 25th, and we're gonna click the save button, and we'll exit the screen to go to the main page. And then I'm gonna show you briefly how we can create a test for parts of this test case. Good. So we're basically at the beginning of the menu, and the tests will pass momentarily. Good. So you can see here the test results in the log. And yeah, to create a test, so we start by going here, creating an object, and we can call that today's test. So we can call it today. Now, the way that Tosca works, it basically abstracts the technology you need to automate from the user, i.e. the test case, with the concept of modules. So, and I've got those modules here in the module section. So you can see here, I've got a number of folders, but here I've got a module called SAP Toolbar. Looks a bit like a Lego brick, and that's intentional because what I can do is I can just drag and drop that into my test case, and then I can just put in what I need to do. And now the module has basically become part of a test case. So we have some predefined modules to get you started with technology, like, for example, menu bars and starting applications and so forth. But for example, something like this, which is basically can be a standard screen or a custom screen, we do not have standard modules for that. So how can you create a test automation? So if I go to the modules part, we have the concept of scanners. We have a few scanners available, but you can see no particular web or SAP scanner. What happens is I just choose the application scanner, and then I basically can automate anything that is running currently on my desktop. So here I have my create cells document screen, for example, which I want to automate, and I can just click scan, and it will basically show me all the objects that it has identified here on this particular screen in one long list. And I can either select them in here, or I can choose my selection with a select on screen, and then just add the fields, labels, whatever I want to my test case. And I'm gonna do also the continue button. So now I can do this with labels, whatever. So I can save this and I can go to the next screen, but I can close this as well. So now I've got the create cells document module created with a screenshot, and you can see all the attributes. I put that into my test case, and then all I need to do is basically enter some data. I'm just gonna do just a couple of values. So I'm not going to do all of them. So in the same way as my test case worked, one of the key benefits with that is the test case is linked to the module. So if I need to do some maintenance, like add some elements to my module, I just do a rescan. My test connection doesn't break. And if I, for example, say here, my continue is at the top, my test case runs sequentially, and I want my continue button to be used at the bottom. I can do two things to make this happen. The first one is I can actually just add the create sales document again as a test step, and then say in here, click on continue, or if that is never the case, that continue will be clicked before that. I can just make a change here and move it to a different location. And you can see here, it has automatically sort of updated that into the actual test case. Now, coming back to some AI parts, and this is how we um, generate our no-code um, automation. If we look at this part, and that is basically it's an image, right? I've created basically a mock-up of a screen. And we talked a lot about AI. So what I can do is I can just go back to uh, my scanner, scan the application, and I want to automate this now. So I can basically, again, use my application scanner. I now use my paint part, and the scanner will open. And this is now the technology that Faz already referred to as Vision AI. So we can automate basically anything running on the desktop. And I'm using this example of a paint because generally you wouldn't automate a screenshot, right? But in my case, I'm going to use this. And you can see I'm just adding these objects like I did before with a sub GUI part. So I'm just gonna change the caption so I can run this on any caption. I'm gonna save this and I close this. And now we have the vehicle insurance module here. You can see the paint, and I can actually move this into the same test case that I was using before, which basically shows I can mix and match the technology. And I'm just going to put in a couple of numbers. So number of seats, say 4. And I am scrolling down to the next button and say click on here. So I can now have this test step and I can run this as part of my uh, other test case. And you will now see that it will actually try to interact with this paint. And that's why I've done the green dots. So you can see I actually tried to work with that. Now, let me just uh, move this out. And now let's say we have a application available in real, and the final implementation has been done like that. So let me just to actually tidy up my screen a little bit. And this as well. So now I've got this application available. I've got my vehicle insurance test case that I've done. I'm going to run that again, and you will see that it can, point one, automatically work with changes to the layout, um, and it doesn't really care what technology the application is written in. So that's our Vision AI technology that helps you, in addition to our standard engines, to practically automate any end-to-end use case, any desktop application you may have. And that's the end of the small demo. I hope the question, how do we differentiate to Worksoft, Selenium or Leapwork, has become clear. Um, and yeah, if there's any other questions, I would be glad to hear them.
Yeah,
Do
and
we have
probably
anything
Bernard.
else?
The other thing worth noting is, Tricentis Tosca is the tool that's recommended by SAP. So, it's actually in the S/4HANA Cloud contract known as SAP Test Automation. And we've got a few more questions as well, Bernard, that have come through. The first one is API Test Automation codeless too?
Yes, it is codeless too. It works in the same way as you saw here. So you can either scan a WSDL file or a request response file in the form of XML or JSON, depending how you want that. You scan that, you identify, you select the attributes that you want to have, and then you get a module in the same way as you get for your functional test cases, with the difference that you will always have one for request, always have one for the response, and that's it. And when it executes, it builds the necessary payload and analyzes the responses without any code.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Two more questions. Firstly, how easy is it to integrate third-party test tools?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So obviously, we store our test execution in Tosca in the normal manner, which I haven't shown, but execution list, execution time, when it was executed, pass, fail, and so forth. Now, generally, customers have a lot of a variety of tools in terms of test management solutions. So obviously, we integrate natively in our own test management solution called Qtest. But for anything else, we have a product called Tosca Connect, where you can integrate your test results with other test management solutions. So depending on what you're using, we have that available through Tosca Connect, hopefully. So we support, HPLM, Sapphire, X-Ray, and a few others through that. Obviously, you can execute those tests as well through CI/CD, so Jenkins, Azure DevOps, GitLab, GitHub, and publish those test results on the pipeline too.
Cool. I think this has probably been answered already by your last response, Bernard. But how about capturing the test results and attaching them to the test application like ALM?
Yeah,
So I think,
that's exactly through
yeah,
Tosca Connect.
absolutely. Another one. Any reports available review, and get sign off from business after execution. So I think in terms of what type of reports are they coming out of Tosca in terms of results and getting sign off?
Yeah, so I mean, this really also depends on how you're set up. So generally, um, as an organization, you would have a test management solution, and you use that to sign off reports and results. And with integrating Tosca through either natively or through Tosca Connect, you will have those results and test cases available in your test management solution, and you'll sign them off there. We also have a report generator where you can um, create reports in different formats, HTML, PDF, and so forth, and you can customize them with your own logos, so they look like your own, internal documents, and you can obviously print them out and get them signed off by the business. Um, yeah,
Okay, there's another one. Does it support different non-SAP systems which integrated to run the business?
Yes. So even though obviously we are an SAP solution extension partner, which means that we support all of the SAP technologies, both from a UI as well as an API perspective. We support, I would say, let's call it generically, other technologies. So anything web, we support mobile, so you can do mobile testing both locally, virtual, and in the cloud with real devices. We integrate to browser stack, and other cloud-based environments, as well as our own device cloud, the Tricentis device cloud. So you can run the whole digital parts. You can any web application, any desktop application, APIs, REST APIs, and so forth. Message queues are supported, Excel files, PDFs, Word documents, and so forth are also supported. So you can test a whole business process that starts maybe on a custom web application in your web shop, goes through SAP, goes through your warehousing solution. You can do Salesforce testing. We have a specific Salesforce scanner as well for Salesforce CRM. So you can just scan aside and automatically create those modules and just drag and drop them together for your test cases.
Yeah, as well as I suppose other sort of like package software like ServiceNow, Workday, and D365 as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Some more questions coming through, Bernard. Right, any plans to integrate the power of AI, Gen AI, like Copilot or OpenAI for comparing images, screens, maybe Power BI dashboards?
So I'll split this question into two parts. So obviously, image comparison's been around for some time. Also with intelligent AI-based sort of comparisons. For example, Applitools is an application I've used personally in the past, and Tosca does integrate with such solutions. So Tosca doesn't have a built-in image. You can compare images, you can compare files, but it's a real narrow comparison. If you want something a bit more AI driven, human like interfaces, the visual testing, so to speak, then we integrate with obviously other solutions. One of them is Applitools, which if you go to their website, you can download some modules and you can integrate natively with that. Now, in terms of Gen AI, we obviously like you mentioned, Fast, we have the first version of our Copilot, which really helps in three areas: is creating summaries of test executions, summaries of test cases, as well as creating you a Tosca query language so you can find it. It makes it easier to manage your repository and repository items and keep it all clean.
Brilliant. More questions coming through, Bernard. Is there a roadmap when all functionality from Tosca will be integrated into TTA, SAP Cloud ALM?
So again, split it into two. So Tosca is currently an on-premise solution, but for everybody who currently has Tosca or looks at our website, we have launched Tosca Cloud this year. In its current version, STA, SAP Test Automation, um, it supports automating all the SAP technologies. It doesn't support all the 160 technologies that we currently have. So mobile, for example, not, and certain files not, but it's available in the cloud as a SaaS solution. And that will continue to be expanded so that we have a parity between Tosca on-premise and Tosca cloud towards the end of the year, beginning of next year. And the ultimate goal is this time next year, you will have the choice. You can have Tosca on-premise or Tosca cloud, and you just choose it based on how you want to consume and use the application rather than on functionality. And just to say that, so SDA is obviously natively integrated into cloud, sub-cloud ALM. It's a very nice integration. And you actually, if you're an enterprise support customer with SAP and you have Cloud ALM, you can just push a button, you get basically Tosca Cloud or SAP Test Automation for free at the moment. You can also purchase the full version. Tosca on-premise will always just integrate with SAP Solution Manager, not Cloud ALM, and vice versa, by the way.
Brilliant, thank you. I think that's it for all the questions. I think we're done on the questions, Bernard. Thank you very much for that. Right, so I hope you've enjoyed our webinar today. If anyone's interested, we'd welcome the opportunity of setting up any one-to-one sessions to discuss how test automation can reduce the time and costs on your S/4HANA migration. And we also offer SAP customers a free test automation proof of concept. And we can also help work with you to develop a business case and ROI as well. And on a final note, we'll be running a webinar on S/4HANA performance testing on the 23rd of July. So if you are interested, please do book a place. So thank you very much for attending, and goodbye for now.
Thank you, and great questions. Have a nice day.